Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan. Welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. I'm coming to you today from the outdoor dining area behind the Tokyo Midtown Shopping Complex, which is right next to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel here in Tokyo, obviously. It's a very beautiful autumn day here, and it's fairly warm, it's not windy, and it's absolutely beautiful out here with the colors of the autumn foliage. And I thought this would be a great day to come out here and shoot a video. It's been a long time since I've done a video outdoors. Today I'm going to be talking about a pretty interesting camera. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Yashica YK, which was released by Yashica way back in 1959. For those of you who are new to my channel, I sell vintage Japanese cameras like this Yashica and others in my online stores. JapanVintageCamera.com. I have an Etsy store which is also called Japan Vintage Camera. So if you'd like to buy this Yashica or another vintage camera, please visit one of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. By the time this video is posted, this camera should be available for sale. So anyway, as I said, this is the Yashica YK, which was released back in 1959. And the YK was actually marketed as a budget version or a little brother to Yashica's popular 35 rangefinder camera. And I have an example of one of those right here. So there are some similarities between these cameras. The outline is similar in appearance and they feature the same lens, but other than that, they become very different very quickly. And there was kind of a revolution in the design of Yashica's rangefinder cameras when it was working on the YK, and many of the I won't say improvements, but I'll say simplifications which were brought, or I guess invented with the YK, were carried on into later cameras, going all the way to the Yashica Electro 35 series. So it was kind of a pioneer of cameras, or a pioneering enterprise by Yashica. So I'll go ahead and set that aside. So let's go ahead and take a look at the features, controls, and functions of the Yashica YK. And for a change, I'm going to start at the front of this camera instead of on the top as I usually do. Because, as I said, these cameras feature the same lens, the wonderful Yashinon 45mm f2.8 lens. This is a very solid lens, a very good performer. It's very sharp, has good contrast, and it's one of the reasons why the Yashica 35 is still popular with shooters even today. I sell a fair number of these cameras in my stores. I average about one a week or so, which that may not sound like a lot, but that's actually a fairly large number when it comes to this kind of camera. So the lens is simply wonderful, and that by itself is a reason enough to consider buying one of these Yashica 35 series cameras. In fact, here in Japan, I've seen some people who've taken to removing these lenses from these cameras and fixing them to different mounts, to different film mounts or to digital mounts like the Sony mount and such. It's that good. But we go back beyond the lens, we start to see the first differences between the regular Yashica 35 and how Yashica was able to kind of cut costs down to bring the price level of the camera down. This camera features a completely different shutter than the Yashica 35. This one is a very simple shutter with a range of 4 speeds and a bulb setting. So we have a bulb which you can use for time photography. It's very good for photographing the water or the sea or things like that, or getting blur effects. Pretty neat. And then we have the shutter speed range of 1/4 second to 1/300th of a second. It's quite a bit less than the original 35 here. We have bulb and 1 second all the way to 1/500th of a second. On the positive side, in favor of the Yashica YK, the simpler shutter is much simpler to repair and maintain, and it's less likely to suffer breakage or failure because there are fewer parts involved. And the one good thing about either of these cameras is that the shutter is easily accessible for repair. You simply unscrew the front lens off, and that will allow you to access the retaining ring for the shutter speed dial and such. You can remove that, then you can easily lubricate or clean the mechanisms inside the shutters, and that it can help if you have one of these cameras where the shutter sticks or the speeds aren't running as they should. So going back behind that, we have the focusing ring, and this one here is arranged with the focusing scale in both meters and feet, which is quite convenient. And behind that we have a depth of field scale, which lets you know how much depth of field you have at any given aperture. And when you're shopping for one of these cameras, always make sure that it focuses smoothly. The Achilles heel of the Yashica 35 series is the focusing helicoid, which over the course of decades can become seized. The grease inside dries up and the helicoid will freeze up. The positive thing about these cameras is that the focusing helicoid is kind of accessible from the inside to the back of the camera. If you open up the door and look around the edge, you focus the lens, you can kind of see a gap there, and that gap can allow you to put oil on the threads of the focusing helicoid. Use a very thin oil, and you just set the camera downward like this over a night or maybe a few nights and let the oil seep down inside. And often you give it a good twist and it'll start working again. So yeah, pay attention to the focusing helicoid. If it's really seized, I would just avoid getting the camera altogether, because often people have tried to force the focus or whatever, and if it's seized, especially if it's not seized on the infinity setting, sometimes the rings will turn. You might be able to get turn again, but the camera won't be focusing to infinity, so that's something to watch out for. Looking at the front of the camera, we can see the viewfinder window and the rangefinder window, which is kind of a different setup here than the old Yashica 35. That's the second big difference between these two cameras, is that Yashica moved away from the solid glass prisms with the reflective coating wedged in between and moved to a more simplified mirror system for the rangefinder. And this was the system which ended up taking over in Yashica's line and continued to be used all the way up into the Electro 35 series into the 1970s. There's nothing wrong with this system. It works really well, and in my experience, it's actually easier to adjust, easier to clean, and easier to deal with. It makes for a much lighter camera. These glass prisms in the front of this camera are quite heavy and add significantly to the weight of the camera. And another thing is that this camera is much easier to adjust the rangefinder on. The Yashica 35 here, you have to remove this front cap here to access the infinity adjustment, and then you have to focus the lens about halfway, and then you have to turn the screw one way or the other, and each time you have to turn it to infinity to make sure that you have it at the right setting. And eventually, once you get that right, you can take off the top here, and then there's kind of a rotating system here which allows you to rotating lens, which allows you to access the vertical adjustment. So it's kind of difficult, and you have to do it kind of together, because sometimes you adjust the vertical adjustment on this style and it throws off the infinity adjustment. And I think that's one of the reasons why Yashica abandoned the prism system on their old 35 series, and all their newer cameras mimicked what came in the Yashica YK. On the top of the camera here, we have the film rewind knob, which has a convenient arrow reminding you which way you should be rewinding the film. And we have a shoe for mounting a flash gun or accessory finder or whatever, or an accessory light meter. There are light meters which you can clip on the top here. The Voigtlander one is quite convenient for these old cameras. If you're using a flash, you can plug in the flash using the PC sync socket here on the front. This camera is set up to use a bulb flash, but you can use a modern flash for a regular fill flash. Just follow the instructions and you'll need a PC sync adapter for it. Here we have the shutter release button, which accepts a standard cable release, and this camera features a nice shutter which feels quite good. Not too hard, and not bad for a camera when you consider the price point that this one had. And here we have the film winding and shutter charging lever, and we have a very simple film counter system here on the top rather than the more expensive one built into the Yashica 35. And it works quite well, but you have to manually reset this when you put in the film, whereas with the Yashica 35 it does it automatically when you open the film door. On the back of the camera we have the viewfinder window, of course, and here we have a little ring here where you program the film speed. This dial is just a reminder. It doesn't have any effect on the operation of the camera. It doesn't matter where you have it set. It's just for you to keep in mind which film you have loaded in. I have had that issue in the past where I have several cameras and I'm running 2 or 3 different kinds of film, and I may forget you know, when I pick up a camera, what film I have loaded in it if I don't set this. So this can save you a lot of headaches if you're one of those people who's forgetful as I am, and who shoots more than one camera. On the bottom here we have the improved version of the release for the film winder. The earlier Yashica 35s featured a simple push button one, which you push in and you rewind the film. The later ones featured this system here where this rotates. When you set it to A, then that means the camera is, you know, the winding mechanism is locked and you can take photos. When you want to remove the film from the camera, you turn it to R, and that releases the winding mechanism, and then you can rewind the film and remove it from the camera. Film loading is quite simple. You simply pop open the back like so, push up the film rewind knob, drop in your film canister, pull the film across, and you can feed the end of the film leader into the take-up spool here, and it has teeth on the top and bottom which allows you to turn it manually. And once you've pulled the film across and the holes in the top and bottom of the film are being taken up by the take-up sprocket here, then you can close, and then you can, I go 3 or 4 times, and then I would manually set the counter on the top to the number 1. Now, the more proper way to do that is actually to, once you have the film being pulled onto the sprocket, then you would set it to the S system, and to the mark here. There's a green mark for the loading, and simply wind it until the number 1 is showing up like it is right there. So pretty basic. Anyway, that's about it for the Yashica YK. If anyone has any questions or comments, or want to share any experiences they may have had with this camera, feel free to do so in the comment section below. And I do plan on uploading another video next week. I'm trying to do this every week. You may have noticed recently that I've become more regular with uploading videos. And in the future, I plan to do a little bit more, I guess, focus more attention on the nuts and bolts of photography, tips about film and shooting and things like that. And if you'd like to see these videos, please subscribe. If you like this video, please like it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.